let's talk about something we all struggle with, procrastination. But, this isn't going to be another lecture about willpower or laziness. Nope. Today, we're actually going to get into the brain science of why you procrastinate. And then I'm going to give you 2 powerful science-backed tricks that can actually get you moving.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You've got this huge, super important deadline breathing down your neck, and suddenly, organizing your spice rack feels like the most critical mission on the planet. I mean, it feels productive, but is it really?
Though believe it or not, this has a name. It's a really clever trick your brain plays on you, giving you that sweet feeling of accomplishment without you having to touch that big, scary thing you're avoiding. So what is actually going on inside our heads when this happens?
Well, it pretty much all comes down to one powerful little chemical: dopamine. Now, a lot of people call it the pleasure molecule, but that's not the whole story. It's really more about motivation, about drive, and that desire to go after your goals. And if you can understand how it works, you can totally hijack the system for your own good.
So think of this baseline as your default setting for motivation. It's your normal level of get up and go. When it's nice and stable, you feel pretty good, ready to take on the day. But this baseline isn't set in stone. It's constantly changing based on what you think and what you do. Now, here's the really wild part. You don't even have to get the reward to feel this peak. Just the thought of it, just anticipating that first sip of coffee or imagining how good it'll feel to have a clean inbox. That's enough to give you a little spike of dopamine. It makes you feel energized, excited, and ready to go. And this is the part everybody misses. It's so important. After that exciting peak, your dopamine level doesn't just go back to normal. It actually dips below your baseline for a little while. That slightly uncomfortable feeling, that a little bit of craving or wanting more, that's the trough. And that feeling is what actually pushes you to take action and get the reward, just to get your levels back up to normal. Okay, so now that we know how this peak and trough system works, how can we use it to our advantage? Well, the first strategy is something called temptation bundling, and it is a brilliant way to make those boring but necessary tasks feel way more rewarding. Just look at this, it's perfect. Hitting the treadmill can feel like a total chore, right? And binge watching that new show can feel a little unproductive. But when you link them together, suddenly you actually look forward to exercising because it's your special time to watch your show. You're completely changing the game.
So here's the formal breakdown. You basically create a new rule for yourself. I am only allowed to listen to my favorite true crime podcast while I'm doing the laundry. Or I only get to watch my guilty pleasure reality show while I'm on the exercise bike. You're bundling that instant dopamine hit of the want with the long-term benefit of the should.
All right, let's move on to our second technique. This one is a little different. It's more of an immediate, short-term hack. Think of it less like a way to build a long-term habit and more like a quick jumpstart for your brain's engine when you are just completely stuck. I absolutely love this quote because it just perfectly captures what this is all about. You're not trying to use brute force and willpower to make yourself do something. You're giving your brain a little treat to get it on your side. And the method is so simple. First, you do something you actually enjoy for just 10 or 15 minutes. Play a round of a video game, listen to your absolute favorite song, read a chapter of a book you love. This gives you that quick dopamine peak. Then, and this is key, you don't pause. You immediately pivot and ride that little wave of good feelings right into the very first, tiniest step of the task you were dreading.
Okay, but hold on. Before you run off to start temptation bundling your entire life, we need to talk about a really crucial warning. Because these techniques are amazing tools, but if you use them the wrong way, they can seriously backfire.
And that's really the question, isn't it? When we start just layering on all these external rewards for everything we do, we run the risk of messing with the motivation we already have on the inside. So the neuroscientist Andrew Huberman tells this great story about a classic study. Researchers took a group of kids who just naturally loved to draw. Then they started giving them gold stars for their drawings, and the kids were thrilled. But then they stopped giving the stars, and something incredible happened. The kids' interest in drawing just tanked. It fell even lower than it was before the whole experiment started.
What this experiment shows us is this really delicate balance between 2 different kinds of motivation. The kids started with intrinsic motivation. They drew because they just loved it. The gold stars introduced an extrinsic reward, and their brains basically rewired themselves to expect that prize. And when the prize disappeared, so did the original joy. So the big takeaway here is this. Be so careful about layering these dopamine hacks onto things you already love to do. If you genuinely enjoy running, don't start making it so you have to listen to a certain podcast or you have to have a special coffee first. Because you might find that on days you can't have those things, you suddenly lose the desire to run at all. You have to protect your intrinsic motivation.
Okay, so let's put this all together into a practical, easy-to-use toolkit. Now that we know the science and we know the big warnings, when should you use each of these powerful techniques?
All right, here's the recap. You're going to use temptation bundling for the long haul to build solid habits around those chores you always put off. You'll use dopamine stacking for a quick boost. It's like an emergency jumpstart for your brain when you're feeling totally stuck. And most important of all, you're going to always remember the warning. Protect the activities you do just for the fun of it. Keep them pure and keep them free of any external rewards.
See, at the end of the day, procrastination isn't some deep character flaw. It's just a biological response. And by understanding this whole dopamine system, you can stop fighting against your brain and finally start working with it. So think about that one big thing you've been putting off. How are you going to use these tools to finally take that first step?